Okay, now we're going to look at the E7 chord, E dominant 7 chord, with its root in the bass. We're not doing any inversions in this video. We're just doing root in the bass and the root on the bottom 3 strings, E, A, and D. So we're going to look at all of the E7 chords up the neck with their roots on the E, A, and D string. And hopefully I can show you some cool tricks to kind of get it all to make sense. And you don't have to think about it so much. It's kind of a very intuitive way to do it. We're going to use what's called the CAGED method. If you're unfamiliar with that, take a look at my video on dominant chords in open and closed positions. What the CAGED method does, C-A-G-E-D, you will find that if you play a chord using what we're going to call the C shape, the next chord up, next shape up will be G. The next shape of that chord up the neck will be a G shape. The next shape will be an E shape. And the final will be a D shape. C-A-G-E-D. Don't confuse those shapes, C shape, A shape, G shape, for the key or the note of the chord. You can play a C shape on an A chord or a G chord or an F chord or an E chord. It's going to be an E dominant 7 with the C shape. Let me give you an example. We're going to start with our E right here on the 7th fret of the A string. Okay? And I'm just going to show you the CAGED, C-A-G-E-D, up the neck, starting here. And then we'll go back down lower and look at the lowers, 2 lower chords down there. So here's the C shape. Root, major third, minor 7, and the root up on top. That's called the C shape because if we play a C open chord down here, a C7 down here, it's the same chord shape. Okay? That's a C7 chord shape played down there on the C. So that's a C with the C shape. Here's a D with the C shape. D7, C shape. E7 with the C shape. Okay? So there's the C. Here's the A shape. E7 in the A shape. Next is the G. And that looks like this. Show you that one. It's 3rd finger on the root, 2nd finger on the 3rd, pinky on the minor 7, and then a little bit of a stretch to the 1st finger on the D7. And what we're doing is just repeating the root, 1, 3, 7 root. There's no 5 in that chord, but you don't need them. Remember, the chord quality is based on the 3 and the 7. That's what determines the chord quality. They're the 2 most important notes. You'll also notice that for chords that begin on the bottom 2 strings with their root down here, the 7s and 3rds all exist on the middle 2 strings. So if I'm playing A right here, and that's my root note, the minor 7 is right there on the D string, and right here, and the minor 3rd is right above it. Major 7, major 3rd. So right here, these 2 middle strings hold your 3rds and 7ths, most of your chord tones. The great Joe Pass, who's known for playing chord melodies, and for years it boggled my mind how he could play the melody and the chord and bass lines seemingly simultaneously. I was lucky enough to go to music school in California way back in the early 90s, and he came to our school and he showed me his trick. He focuses on the 2 middle strings. Depends on what kind of chord. He's playing a minor chord. There's this minor 7, minor 3rd. And then he uses the upper 2 strings for the melody. And he uses the bottom 2 strings for bass. So it kind of demystified the entire process, realizing the chord tones generally live in the middle two strings. You're going to notice that as we go through this. So let's take a look at the E7 chords. First, let me show you the E shape, A shape, and D shape. Because this is for any dominant chord that has its root on the E, A, or D. So the E chord looks like this. All right, the open E dominant chord. Oops, we can get it on the camera. But the caged system takes open chords and then superimposes a bar. If you took your first finger and barred it and then put fingers down to play it, it's a different fingering, but now you can take that barred position and move it up the neck. So this E shape, this is your E shape, right? There's your fifth, there's your major third. This that you're barring was the open note. So now we're playing it on B. So there's a B dominant 7 chord played in the E shape. Okay? Now if we're going to play a chord on the A string, we're going to have our root, our fifth. We're going to play the minor 7th. Notice I'm not doing anything with this finger. It's just, I'm not playing it. And then our pinky on the D string. So that chord looks like that. And that is your A7 shape. Okay? So right now I'm playing it on an E. The root note is E, but it's the A shape. So it's the E7 chord, A shape. Now if I play a chord on the D string, up here, I have to play root. It's just like the A chord, but I put my second finger down on the B string. So it looks like that. And that is for all dominant chords whose root starts on the D string. So let's take a look at the chords going up the neck. We start with this open E. Okay? So if we're talking about our caged method, let me try to get this camera on the neck a little better. There we go. Right? There's our E, C, A, G, E, D. So next must come the D chord. So we put our finger on the root right there, and it's on the D string. So there's the D shape. We just did E, and now we've done D. So I can get, there we go. There's the D shape. So now we're back to the top, which must mean C. So we must mean the C shape. So we come up here, and there's our C shape. There we go. There. Now we're going to play our A shape. We're going to just take our first finger and put it on the root. And remember, our root's on the A string, so there's our A shape. Still an E7 chord. Now, C, A, we got to go to the G shape. So where's our next E? It's here, there's our next root. So play the G shape on that root. C, A, G. Now we got to go to E. So this time we're going to play the closed E position, right? So there's our E. Same root, we went from the third finger on the root to the first finger on the root. Right? There's our E shape. And now we've got to end with the D shape. So we're back at the top, just like we did down at the bottom. And there's that D shape of the E7 chord. Now, these will apply to any dominant chord. Don't think that it's just E, okay? If you want to play in F, take these same positions, move them up a half step. Now you've got all the F7 chords up and down the neck. If you want to play in G, move them up a minor third. Now you've got all the G chords up and down the neck. Let's take a look at that real quick. Let's just do G just for kicks, okay? Just to kind of show you this. So let's take a look at the G. Let's look at G dominant chords. So you're not thinking it's all based on E, right? I want to show you can take these chord shapes and do them all the way up the neck. The same caged C, A, G, E, D works all the way up the neck. So let's start with the G7 chord in the G shape. G7 closed shape with our third finger on the root, right? I'm trying to get the guitar here so you can see the chords well enough. So there's the G, and that one's fingers open. Okay. Next we have to go to the E shape, right? CAGED. So we go to first finger here, and our root's on the E string, so we play our E shape. Right? There's our E shape. But the root is on the G, so it's still a G7, E shape. Next we have to go to our D shape. So we jump up here. There's our G up on the D string, and we play our D shape like that. G7 in the D shape. So we're at the bottom, C-A-G-E-D, right? That's the bottom, so we have to start again with the C shape, with the C. So we have to go to the G right here and play the C shape, which is just like that. It's kind of like the G shape, but the G shape stretches the first finger down, the C shape doesn't. So here's the C shape, G7 chord. Sorry, I was off by a fret. There it is. G7, C shape. So now we're at the beginning, C-A-G-E-D. So there's C. Let's go to the A. Put the first finger on the root. Our root's on the A string, so there's our A, C-A, A shape. Now we got to go to the G shape again, which would be right here. Right? And then we go to our E shape. And then we go to our D shape way up here on top. See that? There's the D shape. Still a G7 chord. Okay, so C-A-G-D, they move up the neck. It doesn't matter what key you're in. It's a great way to visualize and to know those shapes. And then you don't have to worry about, is a D7 different than an E7 different than an A7? Just depends on where you're at on the neck and what string the root is on. That's it. Nothing changes. All right, work on that some more. Those are all the dominant chords with the roots on the first, second, and third string, E, A, and D. Next video I'm going to put out is going to be inversions on the bottom three strings. Enjoy.